Well, hello and welcome to episode 17 of Our Front Yard Garden here in the South Carolina upstate. It is March 30th, 2024, last episode of March, coming close to the beginning of summer, and you'd think it was already summer with all the flowers we've already had, but we still have quite a ways to go. So we're going to start showing off here our mailbox bed, work our way around from there. It's a Thursday late afternoon. It's probably about 7 o'clock. A little bit partly cloudy. It's been a beautiful day. High was 80. It's probably about 72 right now. Just about perfect. So we'll get started here. We've always kind of started right at the mailbox with our clematis. They are now officially done for the time being, at least. And if the last couple of years are any indication, we'll continue to get a few flowers here and there, but it'll probably be a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months before we get anything. Meanwhile, in the same bed, we have pansies still hanging on. They're starting to show some distress, though, as it gets hotter. The flowers don't look all that robust. They're still giving us some nice color, but the plants themselves are kind of struggling a little bit. And by the time we get into the 90s in another month or so, these will pretty much be finished for the year. But in the meantime, we have vinca that are growing by leaps and bounds. Every week they get a little bit bigger. Now these are ones that we bought and planted, and they're doing really well. But coming up from last year, we have a lot of recurring seedlings coming through here. And you can always tell vinca because they have a very characteristic leaf pattern, and the white line down the center, a big vein. And so we should have lots of vinca like we did last year. If you saw any of our videos from 2023, this area was just full of vinca, and they were all up from seed then too. Now, in addition to all of that, we have, actually I went right past it, we have a big zinnia here. My wife grew these from seed. We put a bunch in. Some of them are doing better than others, but we've always had a lot of zinnias in this bed, and these should end up being pretty tall ones by the time all is said and done. Meanwhile, we have some phlox here. Not sure what they're going to do, but they seem to be doing pretty well. We have some other seedlings that she put in. We're not even sure. She had a bunch of seed packets and just kind of threw them in at various places around the yard, and we're waiting to see what those turn into as the year progresses. So there's going to be plenty to keep an eye on. We've got one oriental lily here, and it's starting to get some buds just since last week, so we're going to get some flowers there before too long. And we have a little morning glory that has just come up on its own. We had put a morning glory in here a few years ago, and it didn't do a whole lot, but now it's gotten a couple flowers. If I was doing this video in the morning, those would be out, but they're kind of shriveled up right now. So that will likely continue to grow as the year progresses. So we'll have some blue or purple flowers to take the place of the Giacomini clematis, which will be kind of nice. It's one thing we've always tried to do with our garden is pace ourselves and kind of go through different cycles. So we have early spring, mid, late spring, summer, fall. So we always have some color out there. It's just something that's ever changing. More pansies in this area. Again, kind of starting to struggle a little bit. We had creeping phlox in here. Those are all long since finished up. Early spring plant. Our petite knockout rose here, we still need to deadhead it, although even without deadheading, and you see a lot of flowers that have faded out and ones that are just outright dead, even without that, we're getting some new buds and blooms. That's the thing about knockout roses, you just cannot beat them. They look fantastic and they're low maintenance, but they do even better if you deadhead. So hopefully we'll get to that in the next couple of weeks or so. Down here we have the one Asiatic lily, or oriental lily, in this bed. A little short thing, only a few inches tall. This is the last bloom. It only had 2 or 3 buds on it, but that's finishing up, and it was kind of a nice little surprise. We didn't even expect that one to come up this year. Over here we have just our usual mix of plants. The one that stands out, of course, the most are the marigolds, doing really well so far. We only bought these two groups of them. They tended not to do well in other parts of the yard, so we had success in this area. Hopefully they'll continue to bloom for us throughout the year. They have particularly big flowers on them that I always refer to as pom-pom marigolds, but they're really pretty and they really stand out, kind of an impact flower. In the foreground we have more pansies, and then a lot of dianthus. Now these dianthus were fully in bloom about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then they kind of went silent, and we still need to do some deadheading, but they are not completely done, and they will continue to give us flowers off and on really throughout the rest of the year, which is kind of nice. And then over here we have coreopsis, these beautiful yellow flowers. These are full of buds right now, and if we continue to deadhead them, they should continue to bloom through a good part of the summer. Got our big climbing rose over here. This thing has struggled for a number of reasons. It's lost a lot of its leaves, although it's getting a lot of new leaves back now. Black spot hit it pretty hard, but it's coming back, and it's got lots and lots of flowers, lots of buds on it. Last year this was a really prolific plant. Gave us a ton of roses before the end of the year, and so far it looks like it's, despite some of its problems, it's doing pretty well. I also have kind of stabilized the trellis that kept blowing over in the wind earlier in the spring, but it seems to be stable now. As we continue to come along here, we have Russian sage. It's going to be blooming in another month or two, and just kind of a mix of a lot of things: lilies, phlox, some black-eyed Susans that'll bloom later in the summer. We've got dahlias here doing pretty well, and a mix of zinnias in with those, and these are all going to be midsummer bloomers, so we're going to be getting a lot more color as the year progresses. Got some phlox in here, some more phlox here. Of course, our irises are done for the year. The last one finished up a few days ago, and I can't say enough about bearded iris. They are so easy to take care of. There's not much you have to do. You get good soil and a decent amount of sun. They will just give you beautiful, beautiful flowers, and they bloomed for about 2.5 months this spring, so we're very happy with them. Got some more climbing roses here. These have never been terribly prolific. They tend to get hit by black spot pretty hard, but they do put out the occasional flowers. We've got one sort of blood red rose right now over there. These don't put out large numbers, but they are fun to watch. And we have some more coreopsis here. Excuse me. Also have one little Asiatic lily coming up from a bud that we put in earlier this spring. And then our one begonia that comes up every year, that we put this in originally about 5 or 6 years ago, and it has come back every year. Got some seedlings over here. We have to be really careful. They look like weeds, and it's easy to think, oh, let's spray them, but we don't want to do that because that's going to waste a lot of effort and a lot of pretty flowers later on. Here we have, speaking of pretty flowers, we have our hydrangeas, now pretty much fully in bloom, mostly pink with a few blue and purple blooms over here. This has been really a highly satisfying plant, another one that's very low maintenance. When we lived in Ohio, we tried these and they just never did much. They looked good at the garden store, but then we could never get them to bloom like this. And down here it's been almost effortless, which is really fun. I'll give a quick look to our orange and lemon trees. Not doing a whole lot. They're just sort of existing at this point. We had a Meyer lemon that was kind of struggling for a while. It's getting a lot of new growth on it, and just in the past week, so hopefully this thing will continue to grow. It did put out a few flowers earlier this year, but then they all fell off, so All of these are struggling. I've come to learn, as you've heard me say on previous videos, citrus trees are meant for citrus areas like California and Florida, not really meant for South Carolina. I had my hopes that maybe I could get something to happen with those, but it's really not meant to be, I think. Here, more hydrangeas, of course, some that are bright blue in color, and then others that are pink. Absolutely beautiful for anybody's garden. They do well in kind of a mix of sun and shade. They don't necessarily want full sun, but they don't want full shade either. Although this area is largely shady, the area over here, it gets a little bit more sun, not a ton, but whatever they're getting, they seem to really like it. Now here is a gardenia. It's just come into full bloom. We had just a few little blooms last week, and right now it's fully in bloom with a very, very pleasant summery scent. Still a few buds on it, but this one comes and goes pretty quickly, and I don't think we'll have flowers for more than a couple of weeks. So we're going to try to enjoy this one while we have it. Over here we have a few snapdragons. We got a few blooms off of these earlier in the year, but they're not doing a whole lot right now. These have done a lot better for some reason, don't know why. The pink ones just really enjoyed this area. They were quite prolific early in the year. Now we've deadheaded most of them, so hopefully we'll get some more flowers before long. And then for some reason we have this one orange snapdragon. It's doing very well. Over here in our shade garden, we've got just a whole mix of things. Most of them not really flowering. We only have one flower currently going right now. We've got our hostas that are starting to put up some buds here, not blooming quite yet, but we have hydrangeas here, and then further over, one blue, one pink, doing pretty well. But everything else here, the azaleas, the viburnum, irises, have all kind of finished up for the year. We do have one thing over here, the butterfly bush. This started to bloom just a week or two ago. Not sure how long it's going to bloom. I noticed last year it seemed to be finished up a little faster than I had expected. In the north we had butterfly bushes that would bloom for usually several months in the summertime. Here, these don't particularly like the hotter weather, so they tend to finish up fairly early. Then we have ones in the back that are doing pretty well. We'll show those in our backyard video soon. And then over here we have our knockout red roses, largely finished, although we're starting to get a few more blooms. These need to be deadheaded. They'll come back either way, but they'll come back a lot faster if you deadhead them. And our neighbors have some daylilies that are doing really well. And that brings us back up to the central bed in our front yard here. I'm going to show off our little, what I always call the rock candy flower. I've realized it's nothing but salvia, actually. It's just about finished up. It's been blooming for the last few weeks, looking really nice. And we've got some vinca here, still a few pansies, one dahlia that has just come out in the last couple of days. So we're hoping to get more of those. More vinca and pansies over here. We had a nice, unusual yellow lily, or Asiatic lily, that was doing well and finished up this past week. But we're going to be getting a lot more of those here in this front bed. Some more dianthus down in here. And we've got zinnias growing up in this area, again from seed. Sedum, speaking of seeds, this little ground plant, little delicate yellow flowers, kind of pretty. Nothing dramatic, but they're fun to grow. And then got some daylilies back in here, more daylilies over in this area, and one that is absolutely beautiful. I always talked about this one kind of hiding. It's just the first one that's come out. This if there was ever one that kind of had a Victorian look about it, I feel like this would be it, with all the ruffles. Looks like a lady's dress from the 1890s. Just a beautiful flower, and we have, as you can see, tons and tons of buds, so we're going to be getting a lot more of these flowers as the summer progresses. I'm really looking forward to it. And then we have our knockout roses here. Again, they're kind of in an in-between phase. Kind of a couple flowers here and there, but nothing dramatic. And then coming around the back, more Asiatic lilies, starting to do pretty well. Some of them struggling with gravity, but one here that's about 5 feet tall already. It's going to bloom soon. And then over here, some Monarda, also known as bee balm. I always point that one out. Really attracts insects. Early summer flower. It's just starting to bloom right now, and it'll go for probably another month or so. And that's really about it. So the biggest change that we saw this week compared to last week was the opening up of a lot of daylilies, and we're going to see even more of that when we do the backyard video soon. Everything else is just sort of coming along, just continuing the slow progression from spring into summer. Some things finishing up, some things still going, and I guess the gardenias too, having gone from just starting to be fully in bloom. So every week there's something to tune in for. So hopefully we'll see you next week wherever you are. I hope it's sunny, and until next week, happy gardening.